organizations, what people call the MSM or the mainstream media, they're not mainstream, by the way, then you know that there's an issue with a capital I, an issue. The headline is, Republicans look for advantage as House Democrats opt for retirement over re-election. The narrow 221 to 213 Democrat House majority could be in serious danger as members see the midterms as unwinnable. So the article actually writes, House Democrats seem to have gotten the message from Tuesday's elections back on November 2nd that political winds are not blowing in their favor. After months of delays and stalemates, they passed the infrastructure bill, but Republicans' Glenn Youngkin's win in the Virginia governor's race is likely to make a lot more Democrats nervous about the ease at which they will hold on to their seats. And now there's a potential loss of up to 30 seats in the House and the Senate for Democrats who are saying something similar to, I think it's a great time to retire. Then there's this. I've said it before and I'll say it again. CNN is about to go crash. Well, they've been crashing for quite some time, specifically after January 20th. Their ratings, MSNBC, CNBC ratings, have just absolutely been in the tank. And as I am wont to say, CNN right now is garnering ratings right up there with the Tibetan bell ringing channel and also with the parakeet training channel. They're knocking up the ratings to the point where now this is serious. CNN is actually considering a big old staff shakeup, says a report. Left-wing news network CNN is considering a major shakeup of programming and personalities amidst tanking ratings that saw none of its regular shows averaging even 1 million viewers per episode in October. The network viewership has declined steadily ever since President Donald Trump left office. Imagine that. During the months of October, nearly every single program failed to average 1 million viewers, according to Nielsen data. This is marking historic lows for the so-called most trusted name in news. Now, the only two exceptions came during the 31 days were the 90-minute Biden town hall, which came in third place behind Fox News and MSNBC, averaging only, however, 1.2 million viewers, and the 30-minute Cuomo primetime that aired immediately after with 1.1. After that, CNN averaged a devastating 480,000 viewers, which is Parakeet Channel. That's it right there. That's Parakeet Channel numbers right there in total day viewership in October. So stop right now. I want to tell folks, and this should come as no shock to you, there are podcasters now, guys that some people have no idea who the hell they are, that are getting better numbers on a podcast than CNN, MSNBC, and CNBC combined. And one of those podcasters is Joe Rogan, who again started off, you could say he was left. Now he's in Bill Maher territory. And so even people who were blind, now they are starting to see. And these are not good looks. These are not good looks on these cable channels. Then there is this. And I say this, some of these things with schadenfreude. There's a story that just came out from CNN Politics, exasperation and dysfunction inside Kamala Harris's frustrating start as vice president. When you've got CNN writing a headline like that, then you've got a problem. And I've got a problem with time, so I'm going to have to go and do this right now. My final set of promos, and we'll be right back. Tonight, my guest is George Eliseo. Don't go anywhere. Please come right back.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Southern Sense is conservative talk with Annie, the radio chick Ubellis as host, and C.S. Bennett co-host. Informative, fun, irreverent, and politically incorrect. You never know where they'll go, but you'll love the journey. Annie is a top conservative host on Top Talk Radio and features some of the finest guests packed with important politicians and newsmakers. Listen every Friday, 3 to 6 p.m. Eastern, noon to 3 Pacific, on the SHR Media Network. Remember, Southern Sense is common sense.
We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, and among these, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness.
Hi, this is Eric Thompson. Please check out my new Week in Review show, For Liberty's Sake, Saturday mornings, 10 a.m. Pacific Time. Check out forlibertysake.com.
Hey, are you guys listening? This is Shannon from Right Way with Shannon and Mike in the AM on SHR Media. I know you've been wondering where we are and what's been going on. Well, folks, that's right. We're back. So please join us 7 to 9 a.m. Monday through Thursday on SHR Media, on Spreaker, iHeartRadio, and Spotify, and Facebook Live at 11 a.m. on Right Way with Shannon and Mike in the AM at Facebook. You don't want to miss a minute. We've got lots of guests, lots of segments, and lots of interesting things. And let's face it, there's nowhere for you to go, so you might as well tune in. Again, Right Way with Shannon and Mike in the AM. We're back live on the air on SHR Media, 7 to 9 a.m. Monday through Thursday, audio and Facebook Live, audio and video. Yes, we are going to do video. Facebook Live, Right Way with Shannon and Mike in the AM. Hope to see you soon.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
And we are back. I am BZ, the bloviating Zeppelin. My guest tonight is George Eliseo, somewhere from the Southern California, always spelled with a K, area, who's been kind enough to be in the Saloon tonight with me. He's an author of Altered Course, coming out with any number of new books. This question just plonked on my head, which I'll be asking George Eliseo here in a moment, and that is it. So let's see if okay, this is a test. This is a memory test, George Eliseo.
All right.
Your first book, Altering Course, you said that you will be coming out with some sequels to it. Your main character, Carmine LaRosa. Did I get that right?
Yes.
Okay. Yay! Wait a minute. You're okay. Sometimes I need a producer because I don't have one. But if I had a producer, what you would have heard is, oh yeah, and your let's see, your major protagonist is Carmine LaRosa. Yeah. See, I actually have a memory. Yep. Okay, enough of that. Anyway, are you going to, if you had to predict, George Eliseo, in what period of time might we see a sequel to Altering Course? Because my guess would be people have said, hey, like the book, is there a new one coming?
Yes. Sadly, yes. It's sort of on the back burner. Like I think I mentioned briefly, it's the second book in that series is called Man Overboard. And I've got the sort of the rough outlines of that story, and I've written some of it, but it's one of those sort of inspiration, perspiration things. And right now that one is more perspiration. So I'm sort of battling some things to get back to it. But an interesting thing about that series, that hopefully will be a series, you've seen the cover of that book, right, with the red and white flag, is it?
Yeah, it's got a what looks like a Walther PPK on it. There's a red and a blue flag. There's the ocean behind it, flag. And it looks like a blue dragonfly.
Correct. So, really funny, really interesting story two things about that. The red and blue flag is a nautical flag, and that flag, those flags, all say a certain thing to other sailors. That red and blue flag is altering course to starboard. Hence the name of the book, Altering Course.
Right.
And then, so all of the books in that series, if I get, around to writing all of them, they're all based on the nautical flags. Like Man Overboard is yellow with a black square, if I'm not mistaken. So it's going to go sort of through the series of nautical flags, Diver Below and Pilot on Board was another. So I've got them all sort of like, sketched out, little thumbnail sketches for all those stories. But, writing them is, of course, the hard part.
Okay.
Yeah. The other funny story of talking about the blue dragonfly is that in the book, he's searching for a man that went missing on a trimaran. And the trimaran, the brand name of that trimaran is Dragonfly. It's made out of, it's made in Norway or Iceland or somewhere. It's a Norwegian sailing vessel. It's a very fast trimaran, very expensive. So when I was writing that book, I wanted to have a picture of the trimaran on the cover. So I sent an email to the company, and I talked to a very nice woman over there who told me, no, fuck off, basically. We're not letting you, we don't know you, we're not putting our very expensive sailing vessel on your stupid book. So I said, okay, thank you very much.
Okay, but I'm sure she said it in a nice way, right?
She did. She was very nice about it. She was very, pleasant, as Norwegians are. And so then, and this was funny because the book was still sort of in the writing phase, it was mostly written, but then I got the idea, it sparked the idea for the blue dragonfly on the cover, and then in the book itself, there's some mention of that blue dragonfly. And so it actually helped me, really. It helped sort of add sort of this little facet to that book, and actually the whole series, because then it kind of inspired me. So like in the next book, so every book is going to have, I don't know if you call it a talisman or a symbol, but like in the next book, it's a green turtle, if I'm not mistaken, like a jade turtle. So it sort of, the fact that they turned me down and said, no, you can't put our sailboat on your cover, then it just sort of made me kind of go in a different direction. So then it was really a blessing, because it kind of added this sort of little element that was missing, I thought. And so it was a funny little thing that happened.
Okay. And just for the people who tuned in, the only reason that I asked George Eliseo twice tonight about a sequel to Altering Course is, boy, I sure would like to see a sequel to Altering Course, but, not like there's any pressure or I'm pushing anything or I really like the book, nothing like that. It's just to pester George Eliseo. I invited him all these ways, all these many miles from Sacramento to San Diego in order to pester George Eliseo live and on air on my show. No, I actually really did like the book. So moving right along, let's talk some more politics, if we will. We were talking about a CNN article about exasperation and dysfunction inside Kamala Harris's frustrating start as vice president. And a lot of people are saying, well, we don't exactly know what's going on with her. Historically, she's always had interior rumblings to the fact that she treats staff like crap. This is nothing new. If you were in California, always spell it with a K, as I have been all my life here, except for maybe 10, 11, 12 years or so, where I was on the East Coast doing other things, air quotes, other things. Everybody who is here in California knows that she made a crappy mayor of San Francisco, and she made a crappy attorney general for the state of California, always spell it with a K. Because one of the things that I will never forget her for is there was a deranged lunatic who shot an SFPD officer in the head and killed him dead, and then she decided she was not going to go for the death penalty on that. It's like, tick the box, you're out. Yeah. And then number two, as AG, she decided that she was pushing for crime control, etc. Not like she's doing anything even remotely serious like that these days. And she would put people slinging dope into prison in California, but nobody wants to mention that about her. And then, of course, during the year 2020, she was paying money so that people who were arrested for rioting could bail out immediately. That's our current vice president, a loser. So it should come as no shock that she couldn't manage anything. She'd have a tough time managing like a little ice cream stand or somebody selling Kool-Aid or something like that.
Yeah.
Then there's this in terms. I'm going to refresh everyone's memory again with this because I am going over specifically.
It's time for happy stories and good times.
Then there's this. Judge rejects Virginia school district's attempt to stop moms from distributing purportedly sensitive documents. Okay, let's back that up with a dinging bell and unpack it, as some people are wont to say, and that is this. The Fairfax County Public School District attempted to block two moms from disseminating the results of public information requests, which the county says contain sensitive and legally protected information. So what it was is information about what's being taught to kids. So what is the concern about potentially confidential information regarding the Fairfax County and the school district and the relationship between students and school employees? It gets down to this. They wanted to find out what is being taught their children. So when is it worthwhile of a county, by way of a school district, suing individuals who have filed a Freedom of Information Act, a FOIA request, which they shouldn't have to do in the first place, to find out what it is that's being taught in schoolrooms, and yet a judge rightly rejected that Virginia school district's attempt to stop those mothers from disseminating the information. Now, I'm going to transition ever so clumsily over to the Rittenhouse trial. We still don't have the jury back. And I submit, and one of the major reasons I wanted to have you on tonight, we've got about 10 more minutes on the show.
Sure.
And I wanted to make sure that I get your opinion and get your thoughts in on this, George Eliseo, because you spent 11 years in law enforcement. That's a fairly decent amount of time doing the job that you did and the job that I did. The longer it's been my sense, it's been my training, my requisite training, education, and experience has indicated to me that the longer a jury stays out, particularly in a case as charged as this, two things are going to happen. Within a period of time, say a day or so, day and a half, if a jury had come back, then I would have guessed it would be a not guilty. However, what a lot of people don't understand is that at the Kenosha County Courthouse, the jurors in the courtroom can hear the protests outside. And today, stringers for MSNBC followed the jury bus to see where they were going to go, knowing full well that the goal of that was to let them jump off the bus, go into a parking lot, get into their individual automobiles, and then pick a couple or as many as they could with other individuals and follow them home to their address, so that if a bad verdict, that is to say, the jury came back with not guilty for Kyle Rittenhouse, they could go directly to the doors of these individuals, dox them on social media, and have a crowd of people threatening them, their children, at their home, and then follow them to work and then take it to their work. George Eliseo, any thoughts on that so far?
Yeah, I think the jury being out, normally you're right. The longer they're out, the more likelihood of a guilty verdict. But I think in this case, that may not be the case. I think they may they either have, from what I understand, the jury foreman was pushing for charges, and the other 10 or 11 were pushing for acquittal. So I think at the end of the day, you're going to find either a hung jury or a mistrial based on all the sort of egregious things, the media trying to dox the jurors being one of them. But I don't think I'm not giving up hope on either an acquittal or a mistrial or a hung jury. I don't think it's, I think in this case was so political. I think you'd agree, Mark. When you see that videotape, and what's funny is the crowd that were chasing him, the Antifa that were chasing him. Normally, one guy you shoot, in a crowd of people, if one guy gets shot, everybody runs, right? But in this case, one guy got shot. Oh, two more guys step up. One with a gun pointed at him. It's like that didn't deter them. It wasn't. Oh, we're just going to escort this guy away. It's so obvious. And the guy Kyle used, I thought excellent judgment and excellent control in that whole situation. There's cops that have shot, one guy, more times and missed more times than what he did, in that situation. So, it was really a credit to his being under pressure and, being in a really tough life or death situation. It was clearly a self-defense. And I don't think the case would have been brought otherwise, other than, what was going on, with the DA and with the, the political machinations behind that whole thing.
I think I would agree with you. The whole thing is political. I'll get into that in a moment. But I agree with you, and I don't think I made myself clear because I obfuscate quite a bit, and I really shouldn't. The longer it goes, the shorter the amount of time, I believe that would have been an indicator of a not guilty. But the longer it takes, the more I think, as with you, that it's going to go into either a mistrial or it's going to go into some kind of an acquittal, or they'll just be hung.
Right.
One of the two. So I sense that it's moving in that direction. And, of course, that's what everybody out on the street either doesn't want or they do want, because it will be essentially license to light Kenosha on fire once more, which, because of its massive standing in the state of Wisconsin, probably won't be coming back for quite some time, because it already hasn't. It's not a critical city. And if things don't go the way that the mob wants for mob rule, they'll light that bad boy back up again. I have no doubt whatsoever.
Yeah, but you notice that the National Guard are on scene this time, when last time they weren't. And don't you find that unusual that when there's a Republican in office, the National Guard, these governors and these mayors aren't calling out the National Guard. They're not calling out they're not having the cops engage with the protesters. It was, everybody saw that for what it was. It really was a tacit threat to Trump that, and the party was, look, if this guy's in office, and you're going to have 4 more years of riots, and we're just going to burn our own cities down to prove a point. Where now it's, the Democrat in office, it's like, oh no, we got to have law and order now. Everybody sees through that. It's, I think,
to me, it's very obvious and very clear. Yeah. The other point is that, unfortunately, a lot of people don't bring up is the fact that Thomas Binger, who's the lead prosecutor on this case, had ran for DA in the county directly north of Kenosha. My guess would be, obviously, that he decided, along with a few other people, that he was going to prosecute this and, in my opinion, massively overcharge, which has happened in Virginia, in D.C., and on a number of prior occasions with cops, if for no other reason than the politics of overcharging, and then should never be surprised when a lot of those cases don't come to light and or they either get dismissed or not guilty verdicts come back. But that having been said, this guy, I think, Thomas Binger, wanted to use this case as a springboard to either try DA in that northern county again, or if he'd acquired a guilty verdict on all counts, then possibly would have attempted to become district attorney for Kenosha County as well. So, yes, I submit it was political, obviously, on those two venues in terms of, yep, it's a political charging and we will overcharge, coupled with, I could make a real name for myself in this county and it could lead to other political applications, me, Thomas Binger. I have one more audio cut that I would like to play for tonight. As with every show, I have about 20 or 30 other stories and audio cuts that I just don't have the time to get to. But there's this one where Judge Bruce Schroeder has a little tete-a-tete about the incident that occurred earlier today being Thursday, and he made some remarks in his court.
The matter is under further investigation at this point. And the media has asked questions about it. That's the latest I have. And he was ticketed for violating a traffic control signal. He's not here today from what I'm told. And I have instructed that no one from MSNBC News will be permitted in this building for the duration of this trial. This is a very serious matter, and I don't know what the ultimate truth of it is, but absolutely it would go without much thinking that someone who is following the jury bus, that is it's extremely serious matter, and will be referred to the proper authorities for further action.
See, this guy isn't Judge Ito. Thank God. And that's one of the reasons I submit that he has been despised all along, George Eliseo, is because he has made some definite rulings and, in my mind, has the Constitution and the Bill of Rights at heart.
Yeah.
And another reason that he is despised. With this, and this is the final question to you tonight, George Eliseo, in retrospect, and I am surprised, and I looked a little askance when I first heard this. My first thought about the trial was, Judge Schroeder, why was it that you did not sequester this jury, knowing you should have known its full political ramifications, in terms of for no other reason than to protect the jury themselves, obviously to not let them be influenced by what they see or hear, because, you can't stop the audio from coming through the walls of the courthouse from outside, but you can at least protect the jury. And he failed to sequester them in this kind of a high-voltage trial. I was a little surprised. Your thoughts on that, George Eliseo?
Yeah, same. And not only that, but I'm surprised there wasn't a change of venue, given the absolute, madness that happened in Kenosha.
Yep. Exactly.
I think there was definitely some maybe procedural errors. I don't know if that's the defense, if that's the judge, but I think it's one of those things you would think it just would have gone, hand in hand. If we're not going to have a change of venue, at least sequester the jury, So, final thoughts on the Rittenhouse trial for tonight, George Eliseo. I say hung jury or mistrial. What say you, sir? From everything I've read, I think that's correct. I think there are, from what I understand, there's either one or two people on that jury that are not going to acquit. So you're going to have a 10-2, 11-1 hung jury, I think, at best, if he doesn't declare a mistrial. I would tend to agree with that. Folks, we have been speaking to George Eliseo for 2 hours tonight. So, George, thank you ever so kindly for your time. Can you tell people where they can either get your books and or where they can find you on social media, sir? I'm on Twitter, mostly George Eliseo at Twitter. But can I give a quick shout out to a good friend of mine, and I think you will appreciate this also. Sure. A friend of mine has started a gun magazine for Californians, aptly named Cal Gunner. That's CALGUNR. I'm the senior editor of that magazine, And he's done a very, actually, and I want everybody, if you get a chance to check, and if you check it out yourself, I think you'll love it. It's this very cool California take on, you know how most gun magazines are very, this is the tactical vest you should wear, kind of, this is, they're very sort of cut and dried. If you've seen any, like Handgunner or, stuff like that. Cal Gunner takes this very cool California style approach to it. So it's not just guns, it's like guns and lowriders and, like a lot of very cool things. It's a very California-centric gun magazine. So I'm the senior editor for that, and the guy that runs that, Mondo Marino, is really kind of an artistic genius. So if you get a chance, check out his magazine. And for me, I'm on Amazon, so my stuff's on Amazon, or I'm on Twitter, and that's the extent of that.
Okay.
Soon to be in a bookstore eventually.
As you were speaking, I found him immediately on Facebook. I didn't see a magazine, but maybe that's leading to it. I found on Facebook, on business Facebook, Cal Gunner, Calgunner, Cal Gunner, Calgunner magazine. It says the premier custom gun culture publication, Cal Gunner. And then I noticed that it has references to, you can send messages, you can send emails, calgunner@gmail.com. And then also there is a website at Calgunner, 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 Calgunner.com, where you can go for this magazine. And then also, do you have some writings there of your own, George Eliseo?
Yeah, there's some articles in there by me that I throw in from time to time, but I mostly edit everybody else's stuff. But it's when he first told me about the idea, I thought it was genius. I think it's just a very cool spin on, because we have so many gun owners here in California, and there's so many kind of cross-cultural, very cultural different styles. I think if you check it out, you'll see there's a lot of very cool. A lot of custom plating, custom engraving. It's sort of a whole different genre of gun owners and a whole different sort of vibe. So check that out after you buy all my books, then go to Cal Gunner and look at the gun.
Let me throw this out there, George Eliseo, and again, I thank you for being here tonight, and thank you for telling me about Cal Gunner, particularly in light of the fact that, when you think of guns, you don't think California.
Yep.
But having said that, I am still trying to find a gun store owner who is willing to come on the show with me. I know of 3, 2 of which are former employees with my department.
Mm-hmm.
And people are really hesitant to come on and speak about the state of firearms in California. Now, of course, that leads to the nation, but if you know anybody, George Eliseo, who is an expert on that, or perhaps the individual who started this, knows all about the laws regarding firearms in the state of California, and or specifically what it takes to keep a business, any firearms business, open in the state of California, I would love to speak to them so that people understand the cacophony of madness that's going on around a store owner or an FFL owner or holder in the state of California who wants to sell firearms and ammunition.
Yep. Yeah, we've done a couple stories. We've had a couple interviews from either gun owners, pawn shop owners, or not gun owners, gun shop owners and pawn shop owners. And there was a family that does gun shows. So I'll talk to Mondo and see if they want to come on the show. But they gave him interviews, so we shouldn't be a problem.
That would be great, because I think people need to know. It's not going to be one of those shows where I'm trying to go find loopholes or blah blah. I want people to understand the difficulty in California. Always spell it with a K. Of number one, not just owning a business. Oh no, no, not just owning a private business, a small business, but the difficulty that DOJ and the feds, BATFE, make of a business owner attempting to sell firearms and ammunition in the state of California. It's madness.
It is. Yeah.
It's truly madness. So if you could speak to whomever that would be, and I could get them on the show to tickle their brain for a half hour or an hour so that people understand literally the madness involved, that would be wonderful.
Yeah, you bet.
All righty, folks, that was George Eliseo. Thank you ever so kindly for being here. I'm BZ. And if you have, George, you and I always follow each other on Twitter, and we send each other tweets and stuff back and forth. But if you have anything else that you want to announce, or you got a book coming out, always I would like to have you back.
Oh, you bet. I'd love to do that.
All righty, thank you ever so kindly, folks. That was George Eliseo. I am BZ, the bloviating Zeppelin, and sadly, I must go.
Monsieur has unlocked!
So, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, thanks for listening to the Bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk Bobcat Saloon radio show, live and direct right here on the SHR Media Network. If you want to contact me, you can find me on Twitter. I am very active on Twitter at BZEP, at BZEP, and on my blog at bloviatingzeppelin.net. Sadly, because of the lack of horsepower of the internet in my wife's house here, I'm going to have to cut this show into 3 pieces and attempt to splice them together, because I note that I lost the show 3 times during the show because the internet has crashed. The stories I could tell you about that. Heavy sigh. Promotional consideration by Lockheed Martin Skunk Works and by the Boeing Company. If it ain't Boeing, I ain't going. And also tiaras. All of my tiaras, every last damn one of them, are by My Little Pony. Thanks to my personal KC-135 Kettle One refueling team, with whom I will be concerting in less than 10 minutes, because it's about 10 feet from here. Thanks to George Eliseo for being here in the saloon. Everybody have a great weekend. Thanks for listening live, being in the chat room, and listening to the podcasts. God bless. Take care. Be safe.
Quiet down now and get some sleep.
Good night, everybody.
Good night, Mama. Good night, Ben.
Good night, everyone. Good night, Mama. Good night, Daddy.
Good night, children.
Good night, Daddy. Good night, Elizabeth.
Good night, John Boy. Good night, Jim Bob. Good night, Jim Bob.
Good night, Jim Bob.
What's going on? I was asleep. What's everybody doing?
Good night,
Good night, Jim Bob.
Good night, and good luck.